Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Dave, and welcome back to the Love of Cinema. I've done it already. I've done Cinema. Welcome to
It's the
Cinema,
name of our show.
a pod in which we challenge one another to discuss movies both new and old with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. To avoid lazy negativity, we decided to make this a drinking game. Anytime we say something negative about this film, you hear this sound.
There it is.
That means that we have to take a drink. So we hope you grab a beer and you drink along with us.
So pour yourselves a glass and let's head back to that magical time when governments mistook socialism for communism. Oh, no, wait, that was this year.
Let's go back to that magical time when our podcast had 3 hosts. No buzz, because John is gone again. He's living like he's finding himself in grad school. So who knows what corners of himself that's taking him into.
Nobody needs to hear or see that. So
So we are here. We're talking about being the Ricardos today. Quickly, if you're new to the podcast, this is kind of both a review and a discussion because we're going to start out spoiler-free with our initial reaction to the movie, what we feel about seeing the movie. And yes, we have to keep it positive. If for whatever reason something about this movie draws us down a negative path, we're going to buzz the shit out of each other to make sure that we're drinking so that we're being held accountable. We are going to try to keep it positive. And then if you haven't seen this movie and you're worried about spoilers for some reason, even though this is a historical piece and it's done by Aaron Sorkin,
Yeah.
so you could probably paint a picture in your head of what the movie is. Then we'll dive into it a little bit more after that. John's not here. We have sponsors. Carlos Brotz is our beer sponsor. Check him out in our feed. Dave set up a link tree so you can find him. You can find us on all of our socials. And lastly,
you can find us on Apple Music. Don't go to Spotify. Everyone's canceling Spotify.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, right.
I listened to, well, it doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, I listened to like videos about all of this stuff, and it's like, ugh, I don't even know what to think about it all anymore.
Yeah,
but give us
and
the
I love
downloads.
I love that everyone's like really on about the cancel culture thing. It's like, oh, cancel culture's become such a thing, and the movie we're literally about to talk about is exactly what they try to do to her.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Man, it's all selective, right? It's all like,
I mean, it's a tale as old as time, cancel culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. And then music's provided by Dasein. That is Dasein. You can check out all of the music for free on soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist. That's our people. Linktree. Give us the downloads on Apple Music. I think that's it. Anything else before we get into any news or anything you want to shout out really quick?
Nope. Let's keep going.
All right, being the Ricardos, people. This is written and directed by Academy Award winner Aaron Sorkin, starring Academy Award winner Nicole Kidman, Academy Award winner Javier Bardem,
everyone,
Academy Award winner J.K. Simmons, Tony nominee Nina Arianda, Emmy Award winner Tony Hale, Aaliyah Shawkat, you may know from Arrested Development, Search Party, which my bae has been watching Search Party. Shout out Aaliyah Shawkat, Jake Lacey.
That's for using the word bae on the show.
Okay, fair enough. We just lost so much credibility with our genre geek.
It's okay, everyone. I buzzed him.
That's right. Jake Lacey, that guy who's just been around many times. Clark Gregg, Nelson Franklin's a that guy actor.
I was surprised to see Clark Gregg in there because the last thing I saw him in, of course, was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm having trouble getting past it.
He's trying to break that mold of always playing a guy in a suit. Wait.
Oh, yeah. Whoops.
This guy, Brian Howe, you listening at home, you probably don't recognize the name, but you would recognize his face if you saw. There's so many people whose face I was like, oh, this person. Oh, this person's working for Scale. Oh, Aaron Sorkin got this guy to work for Scale. I mean, oh, that girl's working for Scale.
Given the run he's had, when like Aaron Sorkin calls you, you're like, what are you doing?
I mean, it's like David O. Russell movies. I mean, maybe not Tarantino so much, but people they show up. They hear it. It's like Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem. I mean, okay, fine.
I do the same, although on a smaller scale because I'm totally indie. But like, if I like the project, I'll
Yeah, me too. Why
kick
not?
it down a bit. We act like we have a choice. But
yeah, it's like Aaron Sorkin calls and it's like, I don't know, what's the part?
Yeah. Talk to my agent, Aaron. Yeah.
You get a scene with Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem. It's like, I don't know.
Dude, I'd run screaming from that. You'd be so intimidated.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They're both very striking and very intimidating, and these characters lend themselves to that very well. So, being the Ricardos, this is available right now on Amazon Prime. It's probably closer to Steve Jobs than anything else that Sorkin's done, but it has some Sorkin moments and some that aren't quite as Sorkin-y.
Yeah.
And the story is, of course, Lucy and Desi. Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's not Jurassic Park Dominion.
That was not timed intentionally. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry to Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. I'm sorry to all of them.
Lucy and Desi are battling pterodactyls.
Okay, so this follows Lucy and Desi as they face a crisis that could end their careers and another that could end their marriage. So we always start with our initial reactions. What did you think? What did you feel? Dave, since I did this very long-winded setup.
Well, I'll tell you what. When we decided on the Ricardos, it was like, well, there's a lot of buzz around this. Let's have a look at it. Let's have a chat. I wasn't keen to kick this one off because I'm like, it's Sorkin.
You recommended this, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I was the one that said like we should do it because it's getting some buzz. And I put it off and I put it off and I put it off and I did something else and I did something else. And I watched it today. Holy fuck, I should have watched this like weeks ago. Yeah. Like my first impression of this, at first, like Nicole Kidman doing this role, there was a lot of back and forth about should Deborah Messing do it? No, Nicole nailed this. She made it her own. All is forgiven for those AMC pre-show commercials. Like,
oh my god!
No, like the first words out of her mouth, it's like she's channeling Lucille Ball, and like it's done. Obviously, it's like the first one is done as a voiceover, almost like you don't see her, and it's almost like probably the same pressure that Ewan McGregor would have felt the first time he had to say a line as Obi-Wan Kenobi, because the whole world is like leaning forward. It's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And she nails it. Just like Ewan did. But it carries on from there for like at first, like the thing is, because if you've only seen like I Love Lucy and that's how you know her, when she kicks into like when they kick into the performance and the story of what's happening to them, because they pick the worst possible week. Like it's not the story of, well, it is sort of the story of how the show came about, but it's basically the show kicks off, like the movie kicks off with a popular broadcaster announcing that she's a communist. Live on air after she's just been cleared. Like she got pulled into the committee where they reamed everyone, and she's been cleared.
What was she doing when she heard that on the radio?
Yeah.
It was a very sexy opening for Aaron. Well, I guess
it was number 23, the spread eagle, I think.
Very nice Chicago reference here on the pod.
I don't even know if it was number 23 was the right number, but I went for it. But when she settled down into character, and this was not a standard Nicole Kidman acting fare. Like she pulled it for this one. She really, really nailed it, in my opinion. And also, I mean, Javier.
Yeah.
I could watch that guy stand in a fucking line for hot dogs. He's amazing. And he doesn't look like Desi, but you forget.
Yeah, I mean, I think hopefully I like this movie too. We'll get into we'll break it. We'll do it a little more. Let me just give you my pitch too.
I know that you're the one being careful this week. I'm just
careful,
gushing,
right?
Like,
Well, because the Aaron Sorkin-ness of all of his movies really has taken over all of his movies, except for Molly's Game, which nobody saw, but it's actually probably like, it could be the best.
You know how I feel about Aaron Sorkin. This is the least Sorkin-y of anything I've seen him do.
True. I wrote down one scene where I was like, that was probably too Sorkin-y, which was the first table read, because you introduce all the characters at the table read. So it was like a Little West. It was a Little West Wing.
I'll give you that one, but God, that writing room hated each other. It was
yeah. Well, and it's exposition sucks to write. Like, so how do you get 12 characters, almost all of whom's face you recognize?
Yeah,
Jake Lacey, Leah Shawkat,
it really did.
Tony Hale.
That scene though really did set the dynamic for the rest of the film.
Yeah, 100%. And so we got the exposition. We found out how they thought about it, how they, what their mood was, like how, you just got a really good feel for it. And it really was like a West Wing, like it was almost like a walk and talk and a table, like a sit
Yeah.
down at like the Situation Room kind of at the same time. Anyway, otherwise, yeah, I completely agree with you. There were, because here's the thing, and I had to catch myself, if I'm being honest, because it was like, okay, so it opens with interviews. My first thought was like, oh, just like Band of Brothers. Like, I was like, I know a lot of other.
We got to stop comparing movies.
I know, I can't help it though, because all of a sudden they're like, yeah, so that week with Lucy, and I was like, who the fuck are these people? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
I
was like, what style are they going for? Is this a mockumentary? Like,
and they don't tell us who it is, which is why I was like, oh, is it going to be like Band of Brothers, where we have to be like, which one's Winter, which one's Damian Lewis? But then I know like Bernie, for instance. I love the movie Bernie. They do it, yeah. So anyway, yada yada yada. The opening scene, as Dave you just talked about, you don't see their faces, so they're having an argument, which turns into lovemaking. Not to spoil anything, it's the beginning of the movie, and then they hear the news, and you don't see their face, and it's like, is he going for a style? I can't figure it out. And then so I was like, but then again, I had to basically be like, why am I thinking that Aaron is talking to me? Like, why? I need to leave him alone. And I almost needed, for myself, I'm not saying any other audience should behave a certain way, but for me, I needed to stop thinking about Aaron Sorkin while I was watching this movie.
Aaron lives rent-free in your brain.
Fuck, man, I know. Well, and I said when we saw the Trial of Chicago 7, which I think all of us liked a lot more than we probably thought, because we probably thought it was going to be a little too heady and a little egotistical, but it ended up being, it had breadth, and it had it had a little bit extra life, and the characters were different as opposed
to a cast too, like
huge. Yeah, exactly. And so once I just like put that out of my brain, and I really just gave into both Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem. And first things first, the casting issue stuff on Twitter, let's just leave that off. We cannot legislate that kind of stuff. I'm okay with everything and how this happened in the movie. I'm okay with Aaron Sorkin directing and writing the story about a famous TV woman. Yes, it would be great if a woman did that. I don't know the logistics behind all of that, but I hear all of this stuff on Twitter. But for the sake of this conversation, I think we could put that off to the side. Javier Bardem was fantastic in this movie, and Nicole Kidman. Once you just give in to the two of them, I really think they carry you through the film. And so I don't know if it was like my favorite movie in the world, but it was just a good watch. This is a perfect.
I was so
Amazon
surprised.
Prime. Yeah,
I was
the word buzz thing is weird, because when you have Sorkin and you have Amazon, like they're going to submit, and Nicole Kidman, the cast deserves it all.
Well,
and
they have their own studio now, and they have their own theater, so they can screen it for the required amount to gain Academy consideration. So, that's all you need. It's like a week in a West Coast theater.
So yeah, I think there were a couple things where I was like, really that? Like I made a joke. Sometimes I get chippy on the podcast, and I was like, "Oh, look, the drummer from Birdman is doing the score." Like there were like these little jokes that I was making, but I think it was me being kind of rude to the film, because I really think the movie was good. I think it had good intent. I think Aaron did check his ego enough, and I think it's a pretty good watchable movie. I really liked it.
You're not getting away for that drummer thing. Like,
yeah, I know. I didn't love the score, I will say, though, and usually the score is oblivious, but okay. In this case, it was like bland. Well, I know you already buzzed me, but it was kind of like bland melodrama and then drums. But otherwise, okay, that's as negative as I want to be about this film. Let's talk about whatever else we want to talk about.
I think the only time I was like, if anything, the only thing I found possibly negative about the film was that sometimes it jumped around in time, and it wasn't kind of clear what point in time the scene was happening, because they did rely on flashbacks a bit. They went through a lot of the history of how they got where they got, but sometimes you weren't quite sure what time period you were in.
So that's actually, I didn't mean to get to this part too, but it's not nitpicky, but it's interesting, worth the conversation, because Aaron is smart enough. Fuck, god damn it, why is it all about him? I hate it. Fuck. He's smart enough.
Free.
We know that he's doing these things intentionally, right? It's not like he's making excuses for it afterwards. He didn't shoot it with ambiguously and then later go, oh, I have this. So there was the first time they went into past tense was, I guess, the first time they met, which I didn't know was the first time they met. It took a second.
I mean, that one was set up. There were other ones where it was jumping around to where she got the film role, and I wasn't quite sure at what point in the timeline that was happening.
So what I guess I'm asking here is, because again, the music stayed the same. The sometimes lighting changes. You're the expert on that, Dave. But sometimes when you go
some
into
of the lighting. God, I love 50 studios because they always have a sky panel outside the doors so you can open it and throw some rays.
Mm-hmm.
But it just looked beautiful though. It like
Yeah.
that all of that lighting ranged from like absolutely fantastical, like the studio with the rays shining through the door and like smoke everywhere, and then it was on the other side when they settled down into a normal scene, the lighting at some point in the hallways, it was like absolutely realistic. It looked almost practical. And then some in the offices, they made it just nice, and it was a balance between the two.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff Cronenweth, the DP from this, I looked up what he did. He did Gone Girl and a stack of high-profile music videos.
Nice.
Like Lady Gaga and that level of music videos. So like this guy knows how to light a scene.
Well, what was interesting for me too is so instead of past and future being separated by style, which is it happens a lot, right? The Aviator, or I can't think of other good examples, but in this case, it was fantasy reality. I would say as the two. So Lucy, famously, like is a visualizer. So even at the table read, she's almost like in a trance where she's picturing the scenes as they go. So, she's a physical comedy
I
genius.
thought that was an amazing device.
And I do too. So this is what I was saying. For a second, I thought it was weird that I didn't know if they were in the past or the present, and they looked the same. They were as clear. Like sometimes they muddy the frame a little bit so that it almost looks distant.
I mean the
past,
bit, was like the parts where they're talking about what they're going to write, and it goes to literally the sketch from the show in black and white, but her acting it, and that was an amazing device for me. I really dug that.
Yo, me too. But so what I'm saying is usually that kind of thing is the flashback, where it's like you go into that trance. But instead, in this case, it was fantasy that was the trance, and then the past and the present just kind of became one. Yeah. But it worked over time. If I was antsy and I was like, in 20 minutes I needed all the answers, then I settled into it and I really loved it. Sorry.
Also, I should just to jump to the end, that last pull-out shot through the rafters.
Yeah.
Fucking magical.
Cool. Yeah. I was wondering how they're going to end it, because at first I was like, are they not going to show the episode? I was like,
yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I think that's all we can say really without going into spoiler territory. So
I almost did. So
yeah, should we we'll activate the warning?
Go see the movie. It's just, I know this is like,
it's on. You don't have to go see the movie. You can walk to your living room and see the movie. Like if you have Prime, and if you don't, find a friend who does.
And as far as the Lucille Ball thing, Steve Jobs was very obviously fictionalized, where he drew in a million things and pretended like they all happened on 3 days, which is fine. It was dramatic. Yeah. With this, I think it was a good blend of the historic, like this is the facts, this is the truth. We had the interviewers, the people that they were interviewing who were the supporting characters, the main supporting characters.
I also love that like this was like literally the worst week of her life.
Right. And I assume that's true.
On.
So again, I don't know.
Most of that I think actually happened.
Well, because the affair, because this is season 1, and the relationship stuff. I don't know the timeline of it all, but yes, you're right. This the communist thing is the big one.
Yeah,
and that did happen this week, which was in season 1. I mean, it was like episode 20 something, but yeah. So anyway, I think that it blended it really well. Whereas you don't need to know everything about I Love Lucy, and it'll make you want to look things up.
Well, I knew almost nothing because like we didn't get very much of it in Australia, so I knew I'd seen a couple of bits of it, but I never actually sat down and watched the show. And it was funny because my wife lost her mind. She's like, "What the fuck do you mean you've never seen this?" Like it was voted the best comedy show ever in the history of comedy shows. Like it, and it had all these firsts. Like it was the first time an ensemble cast was used. It was the first time like it was shot on 35mm in front of a studio audience. All these firsts, they pioneered all this stuff.
Yeah, and I love how Sorkin tried to throw that in as much as
she's
possible.
Like, what do you mean you've never seen this? So straight after we finished the movie, of course, we got onto the I think it's Paramount Plus. They've got them. They don't have all of them because some of them went missing. Like some of the early episodes went missing, but it starts at episode 4, and yeah, we're watching that now.
Nice. Okay, good. So I like that.
At 49 years old, I am popping my I Love Lucy cherry.
I love. I cut you off before you sent any. Not cut you off, but I prevented people leaving from spoilers because we didn't talk about the historical stuff. Because sometimes it's like the John Adams miniseries tries to get it all in there. This tries to get a lot in there while also. I think this molded all of that it's a tough accomplishment to do that, to tell a single dramatic story that is historically accurate and relevant, in which all the moving pieces of a certain time period all just happened in this one week.
I know
Like,
they took one or two liberties.
I'm sure they took a couple of liberties.
Like
but
the
I
phone
like
call that she makes to break up with her fiance. Apparently, he was the one was engaged in reality.
Interesting.
Just little things like that. But like most of what they did, I guess. I mean, some of it obviously was.
Yeah.
You know,
But I like the angle of seeing this and then going back rather than the other way around, where you have to like read the. It's not like Game of Thrones, where it's like if you read the books, then you'll have the context for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would watch this show because it was on fucking Nick at Night in the 90s. It was on Nick at Night, a black and white show from the 50s.
Well, when I say this was voted the best comedy like series ever, that was in 2013. It wasn't like in 1970. It was in 2013.
Yeah.
It was voted the best comedy show ever.
Well, what I'm saying is it helps that. Why is it on Nickelodeon? Like in 1994, when Nick at Night picked this up, which it picked up other black and whites too.
Dude, people are just selling this shit everywhere.
I was like, is this for like when the kids fall asleep at the TV and the parents come to shut the TV off and they see I Love Lucy's on, so they keep watching? Like, I didn't get it, but I watched it. But I watched it because it's physical comedy. So as a kid, obviously the Grapes episode, which they threw in a little, you know, a little hat tip to that. But like, I mean, it's all relatable. It's in a house. You know, it's like, think about not my mom or my grandma or whoever, like, or my grandpa, just doing that kind of stuff. It's awesome. It's hilarious.
Also, again, also some of it's still relevant today.
Yeah. So
like there are generic gags. Like the episode we watched was episode 4, which is where the series starts on Paramount Plus. Because I guess they lost 1, 2, and 3. I mean they were on film, and film is, you know, sometimes flammable. So it's possible they were lost or they got moldy or whatever, and they didn't have an archive of it. But we started in episode 4, and it's when she's got the murder mystery novel, and people keep talking to her because she's so into the book, and she keeps throwing the book out the window, and it's like a running gag the whole way through, and it's fucking funny. And that's the thing I loved about this movie. It's also fucking funny.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
really
I'm not talking about the episode sketches. I'm talking about some of the lines that they have with each other. Like, laugh out loud moments. I was, like, holding my stomach at one point.
Yeah, you know what I love? Well, first things first, this is considered a drama. The Golden Globes don't exist, but if they did exist, Nicole Kidman won Best Actress in a Drama this year. And she plays it so straight, and she's so dry, and they make it. I mean, they even comment on each other's like delivery in real life. They're like, "Good dry humor, nice delivery." It's like that kind of, like little nods, not enough to drive you crazy.
The whole scene when they're in the office with the CBS execs, and they're telling them that she's pregnant.
Oh,
and it's both horrifying and hilarious to watch, because those guys are just fucking squirming. And then he's like, "This has happened." Like, someone's like, "This has happened before, and you know, we dealt with it." And she just like leans forward. She's like, "Is he suggesting having me killed?"
Yeah,
like, it's like, and it's such a throwaway gag.
It's so it was, and she says it's Javier, who's so good as the supporting person in this movie. Like, he's a lead, but
I don't know about supporting. He fucking shines in this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, it's her. But like, he's number 2. But yeah, God.
I mean, I am happy to report to everyone who's listening in Australia, because we're starting to pick up a few people there. Nicole Kidman is standout amazing in this. If you can get your hands on it, get your hands on it.
The raspy voice, the seriousness, like the stakes that she carries with her. Actually, when the temper flares. Yeah, man.
Like, I got like a little bit of PTSD because like I've worked with some people like that.
Yeah. Oh my God. I loved a funny scene that I love. Now we're just going scenes that we love, but I loved the scene where they were in the writer's room and they were visualizing all the episodes, which it's very functional, but it was woven in really well, where we can kind of see we can see Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball do a couple of the famous bits from I Love Lucy without having to do a montage or something else. Like, it was good. It was a great device.
There was one of those where they did, like, they were in a close up and they cut to a wide, and she turns, and you would think it was Lucille Ball. For one moment there, I was just like, holy shit. Like, that's a really good, like,
There were
performance.
definitely a couple times, yeah. But so in the writers' room, you find it's a very long scene, and there's a little bit of an argument about some of the jokes and the recurring. Sorkin's usually good at layering. It's almost like, what's the one thing that we're going to harp on the entire time? And it's like the table scene. Oops, I just tapped my mic. The table scene, obviously at the beginning. But I love when they leave the
It's so tiny. How could you miss your mic?
It's taking up half my screen. This is my backup mic for everybody because I keep clipping out on whatever. Dropping frame. It doesn't matter. My fancy mic keeps losing frames, and it's driving me
This is not your
crazy.
therapy session, Jeff. Like, just talk about the movie.
Okay, I love when after this very long, one of the longer scenes is the writer's room scene, and she's going in and out of the fantasy, and they're talking about whether or not where they incorporate the pregnancy in, and then they finally leave, and Tony Hale has that little he kind of snaps at. Is it her? He snaps at her. Or is it him? I can't remember who he snaps at. And then you realize that the intern they asked to step outside the room has been in the hallway the whole time.
Yes.
And then Tony Hale turns to her and he's like, did you get all that? She's like, yep, the whole thing. It's like nice. That's a good, not even a callback. That's just like good. That was really, really funny for me the way they did that.
I mean, there was just so much to like about this. Even the supporting cast, was excellent.
By the supporting cast, you mean J.K. Simmons and Nina
J.K.
Ariana?
Simmons was the supporting cast.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. I love it. I mean, I guess he probably knew. So I love that J.K. Simmons did it knowing that guy had been in vaudeville 40 years before doing television. Because in a way, J.K. Simmons did like our version of that. He did regional theater for 20 years before he booked Oz.
I also love that, when he wants to play an asshole, he can just turn it on.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That was the character for me that was the most at risk of being cheesy because he had he brought her to a bar during the day. He told her.
That was one of his more endearing scenes. I mean, half the time he was a fucking dick, and it was so convincing. You were like, "You're a dick."
I feel like sometimes writers probably write a scene and they're like, I know that this is for the best actors in the world. And then there's probably some times where they're like, I think it is. I just want to make sure someone can help me out. And I feel like J.K. Simmons did that.
Do you
I
think
feel like with the other person, it could have been cheesy.
Do you think with Simmons and stuff like that, I know he probably kept control over the two leads, but with those guys, do you think he gave them region to play? Or do you think that was all scripted?
You know what? This is actually really funny because with Sorkin TV versus Sorkin movie, I think Sorkin movie, you have to, right? You have to give them some wiggle room. Do you think so?
Yeah, that's fair.
Like you can't, Nicole Kidman can't spend $1 million on her acting coach and all the stuff that she does in prep, and then go and Sorkin goes, nah. I'm sure he gives them. Even JK,
I mean, you can't even you can imagine Trial of Chicago 7 telling Sacha Baron Cohen to stick to the script.
Oh yeah, and obviously the Jeremy Strong stuff. Right? Yeah. Nina Ariana, who plays the Ethel, Viv / Ethel in the show. So you might not. Nina Ariana's been in a bunch of movies, but you might not know her. She was a huge theater breakout star for this play called Venus and Fur, which is a two-hander with her and Hugh Dancy. And I saw it. Thankfully, I saw it, and it was I don't know if it was a great play, but the two of them were so electric together that I'm sure Aaron Sorkin saw this, and it's the lines about her being the every woman, where she was and how contemporary is that, where the supporting actress is trying to lose some weight and trying to look good and wear nice dresses. Think about the Instagram culture,
and
right?
The nasty tricks they're pulling on her to keep her weight up, and then she just comes out and says it in the end.
Eggs and bacon. And then when Nina Ariana has that scene with Nicole Kidman, our endearing lead, where Lucy's basically like, look, not everybody looks like me. Most people look like you, and they want to see themselves on television. And it's like, oh, man.
Yeah, that's cold.
It's cold.
But the thing is, when it all comes down to it, they're all friends. But it's some dysfunctional friendship that they're thrust into because they're all on this show. They've got 60 million fucking viewers. And it's we either get along or this all goes away.
And I think Sorkin does a good job of proving they love each other more because of their honesty, even though there's a fine line.
You get that on theater tours, you get that a lot too. You have people who are just we're all together for, a year.
Yeah.
And get along or don't. But you're here.
Where else should we head? Were there other aspects of the movie that caught out to you? Obviously, you said the lighting caught out to you.
The lighting definitely like caught me by surprise a few times.
Yeah, the score was not my favorite in the world, but then I got used to it, so maybe I was okay. So
yeah, no, I was not. I to be honest, didn't even notice it.
I buzz myself because I keep talking about the score. I don't know why I did notice it so much. I'm not really sure what.
I mean, when you don't like something, it's going to keep coming, like pop into the foreground.
Well, I mean, Sorkin. So what about the script? Like, can you fault him for anything in there?
Not really. This is probably my favorite script. Now, like Chicago 7 was my second favorite. This is probably my favorite script because this had some funny fucking gags in it, and it was the banter between, like Nicole and Javier was just amazing. They looked like they acted like a married couple. It was the most amazing like banter back and forth, and because of that, you were totally invested in it. And when they dropped jokes with each other, you pissed yourself laughing. Like, that's all I can. It's all I can really say. It's just, it was an amazing performance. Okay, fine.
The gush alarm
I tripped it.
is coming for you. He tripped it. Play him off, people. Play him off. Oh my gosh, keep going. Yeah.
Honestly, like we were having a discussion because like they mentioned that he looks nothing like Desi, obviously. And it was a case of I didn't care because there was so much fucking energy that came out of him when in that role. And I don't think I've seen him do anything like that. Like I've seen him I loved him as a Mission Impossible villain. As a Bond villain, Bond villain. Sorry.
Yeah. So, no, they're good.
Yeah.
It's funny too because I actually think I was trying to say this at the beginning and then I forgot what I was saying in the middle of it. But let's just talk about him for a second because he is sensational in this and everybody's hung up. You know what? Fine. Deborah Messing would have been great in this, I think, right? There's no reason for me to think she wouldn't have been great.
She wouldn't. She might not have She would have been great. But I don't know. This was spectacular, and we'll never know.
And we'll never know. I mean,
I don't know if she could have. Yeah, if she could have bought this level, she probably could have bought this level of performance. The thing is, it went to Nicole. Nicole fucking bought it.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that you got to shoot your shot. I just watched Cheer on Netflix, and you got to hit, right? If you fall, you got to hit. Fine. And I'm sorry, but Nicole Kidman hasn't missed in a very long time. So you cast people. Javier Bardem, when that. I don't even want to call it a controversy because sometimes on Twitter, like one person says something and somebody else could even. They could. You just don't know how these things balloon. But he's Javier Bardem. Like he might not look like Desi. He might not be the perfect combination of things that Desi Arnaz was, but it's fucking Javier Bardem. I have to.
And he did not slouch.
Well, we will never be able to know if Oops, sorry, my thing went crazy. We will never be able to know if the originals, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, would be proud, happy, disappointed in their representation on film. But we can do the best that we have. It's been 70/60 years from being the end of it. There's been a million Hamlets. Hamlet was a real person. So things age over time. This doesn't have to be your only example of I Love Lucy. If you think your Lucy is different than this, or your Desi is different than this, then, maybe this movie's not for you. I don't know what to tell you. But the two of them together were so incredible. And maybe he was even more charming than Desi. Or maybe he was the Desi for this generation. The same way that the Hamilton presidents were.
The thing was, he was incredibly charismatic, which is what Desi was, and the fact that I feel like because Nicole doesn't look like Lucille Ball except when she was doing the sketches, so I feel like to have both of them not quite be spot on was a very, very good decision because you get wrapped up in the story and they facilitate the story, and after a while you stop thinking about that.
Yeah.
And
what was Lucille Ball? She was the greatest. She was the greatest physical comedian on television who was also charming and sincere and empathetic and dashing, forward thinking.
Yeah.
That's not a look. That's there's so much more to it. It's an essence, really.
Yes.
And Nicole Kidman, when she wasn't on camera, had a different essence. But it created this 360-degree, three-dimensional
it was very
firestorm.
very well built. And also the thing is, by the end of it, like you when they pull the thing where he pull, like he basically confronts the audience and says, I've got someone on the phone and it's fucking Hoover. And then you're like
Jagger Hoover, not a vacuum to your British
You're
people.
like this,
Sorry.
The phone's just like
sorry, yeah, exactly.
But like he pulls that, and you're like, this man's a fucking hero. He's great. And straight after that, they gut punch you, absolutely gut punch you, and it's like, oh no. And it like I was leaning a little bit forward in my seat, and I was just dying for him to just confirm that no, none of this happened.
The affair thing. It's another thing too. Like, can you imagine if I know it's Javier Bardem and not Desi Arnaz in real life, but can you imagine if he was the what was painted up until you found out that he was touring? He had showgirls all over him. He could sing and play. Well, kind of. The music was bad, but he could sing. I think it was intentional. I'm not saying like the score was no, it's okay. It's fine. But like, it was campy and cheeky, and he was just joking, and it was like a showman kind of thing. And then to think that he just wanted to have fun, and that was it, and that he wasn't having affairs. Like, to imagine Javier Bardem as that, and then they pull that rug from under you, where she shows the lipstick, and he says, "Oh, they didn't mean anything," and it's like,
and then you find
it really is crushing. I'm sorry to unattractive people who don't have that, where people were not rooting for you as much, but like for some. I'm exaggerating. I'm only telling a half truth there, but for whatever, all I'm saying is the moral of the story is that Javier Bardem playing this number 2, even though his Oscar is for a supporting role and it's one of the best supporting performances of all time, he is not a supporting person. He is a commanding presence, and in this film, he becomes the number 2 so well. I just thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, and also, I forgot where I was going at this point.
That's it. I'm trying to.
I think it's just like when you get to that point and it does punch you, and then you realize that okay, so they're in what, season 1, season 2?
Yeah,
that show went for 6 seasons,
and they were,
and that like they didn't get divorced till like 61, I think. It says it like right at the end.
60 or 61.
Yeah, so they kept doing that show despite that happening in the early days.
Yeah, and I Love Lucy, it says here it ran until 57. So the dates with 67, he said it was the day after that they finished. So I don't know the timeline. I'll just trust Aaron on this one. But yeah. I mean, shit. But anyway,
But that was one last gut punch at the end, and it was very effective.
Especially right after the communist thing. That's another good.
Yeah,
it's a good
literally built the man into a fucking hero, and they just smashed it to bits.
Because he walks out there and he's like, "I promise they're going to cheer for you, Lucy." And he gets Jagger Hoover on the phone, and then he walks to the back, and they're hugging and they're kissing.
I want the background of how he pulled that off.
Right? How did he get Hoover on the phone? You mean for that specific moment?
Yeah. Call this guy, tell him he owes me. Like,
yeah,
what?
I don't know. That's, I think this movie, I'll be honest, as I said at the beginning, just to clarify, it took me a little bit to get into, because for some reason I couldn't get rid of the Sorkin-ness of it and the spectacle of its award season now, and they're award season people, and it's famous IP, even though the script is original, everything else is not. And for some reason, it just became this great. I could picture myself watching this with my parents, whether I'm 10 or 40, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yep. I've been both of those things.
I just Did you watch it with Bay? Sorry. I got it.
Yeah, get yourself. I not at first. She was busy doing something, and then she came and sat down on the couch and was with me for the last hour and a half of this film, just totally engrossed, laughing. Like, and like I'm pretty sure she meant to get up and do something else that she was supposed to achieve today. But no, this movie grabbed her, sucked her in, held her right to the end. So, that if that's not a good review, what is?
Yeah, I don't have much else to say.
Nope. This might be a short one because there's really just
us. For us, but that's okay. I think the moral of the story is it's watchable. Go see it. I don't. We don't have to nitpick every single little tiny thing. I think we can move on. All right. Well, go see it, people. See what you think. Who cares about the Oscars?
Fire up your Amazon Prime, or go and find an Amazon theater because there's about 6 of them now, I think.
Yeah, it's 2 hours. It's totally worth it. All right.
It's only a matter of time before they buy out Regal. Everyone's buying everyone now. It's the new thing.
Oh my God. Well, there'll never be a monopoly because it'll be too late. There's nothing. Okay. Anyway, let's wrap it up there. Dave, we're going to finish up with a quick round of what you've been watching. Do you want to tell the people what you've been watching or any recommendations you have for this week?
I have not been watching much this week, to be honest.
Any other recommendations? Anything that is on the docket or?
No, I
put you on the fucking spot, Dave.
Well,
Come on.
I picked up
two of us.
I picked up a music video gig this week, so I've been kind of prepping that and getting ready for that. But
are you using a Ronin? Please tell me you're using a Ronin.
No, I'm coloring it, so it's all post production stuff. But I have to prep the project, so. But I am I'm continuing on with Peacemaker. It just keeps getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have not hit skip on the intro. Ever. I watch the intro dance every single time.
Okay.
I'm also doing a little bit more on Fringe. I'm going through Criminal Minds again.
Nice. Okay, so there's something there. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I'm finally catching up on Star Trek Discovery, which I'd left by the wayside.
Shout out.
I just watched, I think, episode 3.
You have CBS All Access?
And it was really good. Yeah, Paramount Plus it's called now.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna buzz myself. I'm so sorry.
We're never gonna get a sponsorship if you can't get this shit right.
We had it in the old when you left. Al and I, we had it might have been mine. I can't remember. We had the CBS All Access to watch Star Trek, and then I left the apartment and I can't remember.
No, I have it all. Come over, watch some Star Trek.
I just remember getting billed for like 3 years, and I saw like 4 episodes, and I was like, "Fuck, it was not worth it."
It was only saw season 1.
Yeah, I saw season 1. It was good.
Yeah, no, it gets way better. Way better.
I like season 1. Well, I like that they had
Then you were going to be pleasantly surprised.
What's his name? The Pan's Labyrinth guy, the fish from Shape of Water. What's his name? I just love that he was in it, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's go." Okay.
He's also just finished filming Hocus Pocus 2.
No shit.
Yeah, they just wrapped it.
Come on, the physical actors, people. We need more.
Yeah.
Okay. Chloe was watching Search Party, and I watched a little bit of it. It goes on a whole bunch of journeys over a couple seasons, and it was recommended for me, but she took it and ran with it. We talked about Aaliyah Shawkat here. I recommend it for people. It's a little bizarre. Some seasons are really funny. Some seasons are really creepy.
I've heard this thing's weird. Yeah.
Every season is a new genre, and I popped in at the end of season 4. Because we started at season 1 and then she took it off and I was like, fuck, I'm behind. And then I picked it up in season 4 and I was like, it felt like a completely different show, but it was fascinating. I couldn't believe it. So on behalf of Chloe Search Party, and then I watched Luca this week. Luca was the movie that I watched. And Matt and Mark recommended it to me.
Yeah.
Matt and Mark, the fucking Psycho Gorman fucking guys, recommended.
That's for bagging out Matt and Mark.
Recommended Luke. Oh, I'm just saying they're full of surprises over there, Matt Mark.
That's nice pass off. Nice.
And they didn't have a show last week. And anyway, so that's it. Dave, anything else before we go?
No, this one was well worth the watch. I really enjoyed this.
Yep. And next week our episodes will be back to an hour 5 when John's back. So all right, until then, take it easy, film fans. We'll see you next time.